Hello, beautiful family. Background noise a little different. I'm in Tanzania and I had to travel here by myself without Fritzy and the boys. There are certain things that, as the UK charity, and there is a Tanzanian non-government organisation. So these are the two entities that make up Share Tanzania and the work that we do. And of course, Share Tanzania can also, as it does now, help other entities inside Tanzania. For instance, we helped the Wildlife Management Authority recently, and we can help other NGOs, etc. But here in the NGO, which shares the name of the UK charity where I built Feather's Tail, there are certain things, and if they go wrong, then it is deemed that someone has to attend, basically. There are certain things, if certain events happen, I must be here to attend them. And something arose, quite an unpleasant topic for us all to deal with. There is confidentiality involved, so I can't really share it all. But I therefore had to come here, and I had to come in a rush, so Fritzy and the boys can't come until later in the week. It's been a very chaotic few days because of this. I didn't know I was travelling until late at night on Sunday, and then I was here Monday night, and it's just been chaotic. And so, ultimately this problem, it's the same problem, it's the same cause, it's nothing to do with individual people and the mental identities they hold of themselves. This is an illusion, it's a delusion that we play as humans. We pretend that we are all different. And we might have different abilities, different memories, but right here, right now, we are all ultimately passing through the same problems. We all face the same issues. And this is why Jesus said, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but spiritual wickedness in high places. And so I came into this seeing that. I came into this seeing that there's no individual here to be pointed at, etc. And there's no individual to attack from, but there is this unified state that we have to all admit, where we are all falling short very often. And so here I am spending the last days in this chaotic situation. I've spent all day today discussing from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m, just a constant conversation, constantly engaging the linear communication system and making some progress, but probably progress that could have been made in an hour had everybody just been present and willing to walk in openness, truth, honesty and love and forgiveness. Because then we can walk trusting. I don't need to meander, I don't need to pretend. And I looked at this and I look at the world's problems, and it's just exactly the same. That we meander as a species with politics. We go, this way, that way, this. And we move all over the place trying to deal with our human problems, which happen on a small and a big level. And when we move all over the place, we're always moving all over the place because the persons trying to deal with the problems get wrapped up in the image they hold of themselves in their mind. It's always the cause of it. Always. So they have to process their opinion, their view. No, I have to cling to this part of my identity. I have to cling to this nationality, to this religion, to this spiritual practice. And you insert that into the problem-solving capacity. Now, the human as a problem solver is immensely powerful. We're so awesome at solving problems, but these days most humans can't solve problems. And they can't because they don't have use of their brain. Because the brain is so busy playing out the role of the mind or the character and its identity. And so here and now, where the brain can operate with all its capacity, with all of its brain cells in that vibrance of presence, which is to be born again, we are not able to do it. We disappear into our brain cells being used up by a false identity, one we've given to ourselves. And we let that identity govern. And so we let that identity rule politics. individually and on the bigger scale. And so I can see today, as I come away from there, I lost my presence big time today often. Got heated, frustrated, tired. But as soon as I come away and I pray a little bit in tongues, sit and breathe, whatever it is, I come back to presence, the will of God. Because how can God's will be done in our bodies if he doesn't have use of the body? The will goes in and the mind grabs it and says, but I want to do it that way. It's obvious the vessel's not clean and ready for God's will when we do that. And so I got too involved after 8-9 hours of this. What I don't want to be doing. I want to be helping children, but this is part of it, I guess, the politics. And as soon as I stepped away and I entered presence with God and stillness of mind, as soon as I was away from this, I could see clearly that if every person there had been taught to stand in presence, if every human being present today in these meetings were taught to be present with God, not hold on to the image of a religious identity, not hold on to the image of a spiritual identity, whatever other identity, a nationality, where you cling, this is who I am, according to my memories and my thoughts, but to be a surrendered vehicle, a surrendered human body whose mind is absent from the brain, and the brain therefore can be used as a tool to do the will of God. The will of God doesn't come in and get pushed around by the mind and its identity, it just gets expressed instantaneously, that flow of God force through the hands and feet. This is what Jesus spoke about, to be born again. This is the true rebirth. You can't say, I'm born again as this mental identity, because then the brain is clogged up. God's will is not being done. Your own interference is there. Your own identity is interfering with God's will. And so as soon as I saw that, I thought, imagine how beautiful a world it would be. First of all, this problem would not have existed today if people there were all in presence. You can't behave. If you can stay in presence and teach yourself to be in that presence, you cannot end up creating these problems. That said, I've fallen from presence, fallen from grace when I got sick, and I understand that journey as well, what it's like to fall from there and to rebuild a new mental identity and get lost in that again, as I did. This spiritual ego I developed and probably will wrestle forever. But I saw it like so clear that if everyone there had been in presence, the problem wouldn't have arose. But let's say the problem was there. Everyone in presence, it would have been solved in 30 minutes to an hour. Everyone would have said, okay, this happened. Yes, I admit this happened. I tell you this happened. Okay, we forgive you. Yes, we forgive you. Because we know everyone here is in presence. We know all of them will forgive you too. Let's go and talk. And everything would have been sorted in 30 minutes to an hour. But instead it's took all day and it'll go on again tomorrow. This is what Jesus was here screaming for us to do. Because you can't help the needy. You can't help the suffering. You can't solve the problems of the world of greed and inequality and poverty and, abuse and all of these things, unless the people are present and doing the work and not tripping up and caught up inside their own identities. And so I saw that today. And it's been a tough day. Like, this is one, there's another issue going on, and I can just see that it's that vibration of having a mental identity where these silly ideas come in from a different vibratory source, a different spiritual energy than the unconditional love that having surrender brings to you. When you are in surrender, unconditional love suggests you to build a children's village like Featherstail. That's what happened to me. When you are caught up inside the mental identity and the thoughts, and you never learn to not grab those thoughts. When a thought comes, ignore it. Don't grab it and make that me, or follow it. When you learn that, you enter that unconditional love. When you grab the thought, you enter a lower, tense vibration, and in that vibratory state, this is where the suggestions which are not positive come through. And how beautiful a world it would be if all of our politicians could get together in a state of unconditional love. All the protests about war, about inequality, about unjust behaviour from the government, about power-hungry people. All those protests, they wouldn't exist. Because they're always protesting for one thing. Please be fair, be unconditionally loving. That's what all of them are always a call for. And so I pull back, that I see very clearly. There's work to be done in this world. We have to build the new world and steer the world we're in. But it can't be steered quickly enough. It can't be steered efficiently enough. And the ideas that are seeded from presence and that unconditional love cannot be born into the world, into the collective, unless we find a way to all agree that presence, surrender, and not attaching to a mental identity is the return of that Christ energy to this world. It's the only place it'll be found. Not in a book, not in a church, not in arguing with each other. It's only found by a direct experience with God. And the mental character can't have it, because the mental character is just thoughts in the brain. The whole being needs to have that direct experience, and to have that, the brain must be free of mind. Heal yourself to heal the world. It's truly the way. Makes it so much more simple. Because then we know no matter where we are, there's no decision to make. You've just got to get into presence, surrender your mental identity, and then let God come through, and it will take over and show you the way. If you're toiling, what do I do? What do I do? You're not surrendered. It's kind of beautiful how simple it is when you really see it, you know. So here I am, back to the grind. I love you all. Bye.